Hey, math exam, what's up? It's a culture detective here investigating your favorite albums. And today I'm gonna do an album review on the latest Black Keys album, Delta Kream. So the Black Keys is a rock duo formed between Dan Auerbach and drummer Patrick Carney, and together they are the Black Keys. And the Black Keys has always been one of the most important bands for me because before I started exploring and caring about music, before I learned about regular music or Pitchfork or Anthony Fantano, before I even know bands like Radiohead or Pink Floyd, there are bands that I listened to when I was really, really young, and that had stuck to me and had inspired me to go out and listen to more genres of music. And the Black Keys is one of which, among many other, like Gorillaz and Arcade Fire and LCD Sound System and Coldplay. But it is the Black Keys that actually introduced me to rock music. I still remember the first time, or the first few times when I listened to the track Lonely Boy when I was like 10 or 11 years old, and damn, I was immediately hooked. I'm a lonely boy, I'm a lonely boy. And this song made me want to listen to more rock music and sort of broaden my musical horizons. And I have the Black Keys to thank for that. The Black Keys had also released a couple albums that I really enjoyed, like Brothers and El Camino, and of course the track Little Black Submarine, absolutely amazing. And even before that, we have albums like Thick Freakness and Rubber Factory, which had a lot of good songs on them as well. And after El Camino in the year 2014, they released Turn Blue, and even though Turn Blue isn't really all that great, but the first three tracks are still amazing. Weight of Love is this really dreamy, psychedelic, multifaceted guitar rock song, sort of prog rock. And there's something really beautiful about it. Turn Blue, the title track, I really like it. Fever, some people may hate it, but when I first listened to this track when I was young, I was so hooked. I loved this song so much. And I still remembered when I was young, when I didn't have smartphones, and the only way I could listen to the song offline is to literally use my own digital camera, my own cheap little digital camera, and record the computer, put the camera beside the sound source in the computer, and literally play the song on YouTube, and so that the camera can have the song as a video in it. And I would listen to the song by listening to the camera. That's how much I love the track Fever. Anyways, they took a 5-year break, and in 2019 they returned with Let's Rock, and I was pretty hyped about it. I mean, a new Black Keys album, hell yeah. And Let's Rock is actually better than I had expected. Sure, it's nowhere near as good as El Camino or Brothers, and there are still a lot of dud tracks on it. I still enjoyed quite a few tracks on that album. And 2 years later, in 2021, they released Delta Kream, where they sort of go old school again and sort of write blues rock song that's very country flavored, and the music sort of tracing back to the good old blues roots of southern USA. So yeah, that being said, this album is underwhelming, unfortunately. We have the album opener Crawling Kingsnake, which is a really tame album opener, even though the guitars and the drums sound really nice, and the same goes for the rest of the album. The guitars and the drums sound really nice. The production is crispy clear. And I think Dan Auerbach and Patrick Carney still got it. They still got the energy and the synergy. But what's wrong with this album is that it's just so bland. It's just so spacey and sometimes even basic. It's like nothing is happening, and they're instead of reviving blues rock, I feel like they're only playing covers of it, and it just sounds very quaint and faint. Again, with Crawling Kingsnake, we have these mid-paced drums and laid-back bluesy guitars, which sounds really nice, but it sort of does the same chord progression over and over and over again. It does the same melody over and over and over again. It's kind of spacey, not a lot of change and dynamic happens, and there is totally no need for the song to be over 6 minutes long. We have the track Louise, which has a more interesting groove, a more interesting percussion, but that being said, there's still a lot of empty space in the track, and we also got these reverby vocals which didn't really add anything to the track at all. We have the track Poor Boy A Long Way From Home, which is one of the more fast-paced and upbeat tracks in the album, more jaunty country rhythms and more expressive vocals. Definitely one of the highlights in the album for me. Other highlights in the album include the track Going Down South, which is really deserty, and it's a slow jam, but it has a lot more style and flavor than many other tracks on the album. Dan Auerbach sings in a falsetto on this track, and he brings a more vulnerable side to it, which is really nice. There's these vibrating guitars, which is very bluesy, and I really like it. There's this shuffling percussion in the back, which is really nice, and in a sense, this track reminds me a lot of America's A Horse with No Name, and I just really like that deserty feel to it. Another track that I like is Do the Romp, with its scratchy guitar grooves. Definitely one of the better grooves in the entire album. And the vocals on this track is definitely more charismatic than many other tracks. And the track immediately after that, Sad Days, Lonely Nights, also has one of the better grooves in the entire album. And lyrically, it's not only about, talking to women, it's more about encouraging words said to a son, and it's definitely lyrically one of the standouts on the album, and there's also more guitar works in the middle of the chorus. But that's as far as the highlights go. We have the tracks Stay All Night and Mellow Peaches. Both of these tracks are slow burns, and given how spacey they are, they just feel kind of bland, especially for Stay All Night, where the chord progression is literally the same throughout the entire track. It's incredibly stagnant and kind of bland, honestly, and the playing on Mellow Peaches is kind of sloppy, unfortunately. We have the track Coal Black Maddie, which is another really country flavored track, but again, it has like the same groove over and over and over and over again. It never changes. We have the track Walk With Me, which literally has the same rhythm and groove as Sad Days, Lonely Nights. And given that these two tracks play back to back, I almost thought that I was listening to the same song, except maybe the vocals and the melodies are a little bit different. And the album ends off with Come On and Go With Me, which is also very slow and spacey, and I have the feeling that this track aims to be somewhat sad of an ending, but it doesn't really achieve that. I guess the only standout thing about this track are the guitars. They're almost kind of like early Pink Floyd-esque, almost like metal, like Dark Side of the Moon metal era Pink Floyd, which sounds really nice. Again, the production, the guitar tones, and the drums on this album, pretty nice. But the melodies, the chord progression, they just don't change. They just don't have any progression at all. It's just very stagnant and just very stale. So yeah, unfortunately, the latest Black Keys album didn't really wow me or anything. It's just kind of underwhelming. And yeah, as much as I love a lot of the old Black Keys stuff, this is just not doing it for me. My favorite track here is Going Down South, and my least favorite is Stay All Night. I'm giving the Black Keys Delta Kream a 5 out of 10. So, have you listened to the latest Black Keys? From 1 to 10 numbers, as you rate it, like if you like it, and subscribe if you want more, and thanks for watching. I will be reviewing Sons of Kemet and St. Vincent and 21 Pilots, and I think at the end of the month there is going to be an Rodrigo album. So I'm going to review that as well, because why the hell not? And then in the first couple of days of June, I will talk about the latest, which is not released by the way, but I will talk about the new Black MIDI and the new Natalia Lafourcade. So yeah,